So welcome, everybody. This is Adriana Machado. I'm the founder of Briyah, a benefit corporation that wants to help transform the organizations around the world to create an impact economies by inspiring individuals, by bridging the gap between innovation, practice, and purpose. And today is the second episode of a new series called Leadership Lessons. And this is supposed to be a very informal conversation with one of my dearest persons in the world. So Dorothea Werneck, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for accepting it. So for those who don't know, so Dorothea is a Brazilian economist. She was the first woman to be appointed minister twice in Brazil, maybe in the world, I don't know, we'll see. She was first Minister of Labor, and then later in another administration, she was Minister of Industry, Trade, Commerce, and Tourism. A big name because it was a big job. She did a lot of different things. She has held many leadership positions throughout her life and career. And today she is a member of the Brazilian Academy of Quality and also a member of a group of women that we meet on a regular basis called MIDAS. And as I said, a dear friend. So it's a pleasure, a privilege to be in conversation with you today, Dorothea. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we'll start again very informally. We'll start with who is Dorothea, but in your own words. So you start telling me who is Dorothea.
That's an incredible question, including is a question that I make to myself every day. Who I am, and is a permanent discovery. But let's start from the beginning. I was born in a very small city in the interior of my state, which is Minas Gerais, a central state. And I was very lucky for being there during my childhood. A free life, playing up in the trees, and was very, very happy. And at 15, I left my city since I wanted to go to high school that was not for teaching. That's the traditional in the small cities, only for teachers. And it started the second period of my life, which was also very interesting. I lived with my sister, that unfortunately I don't have she anymore. And she was a very, very important person in my life. 10 years older, and I used to say that she was my sister, my second mom, my psychologist, and my friend. And I learned a lot, and I think a lot of that I became was due to Leticia. And the most important thing that happened at that time was that I was 15 years old. So I was living with her. And I asked her, can I do that? And the answer was, you know it. You have your life. The life is yours. Wow. The second time I made the same question, she said the same thing. You know it. It's your life. So I didn't ask not the third time, not ever again. And I learned a very important lesson that came with me all my life, that I am responsible for the things I do.
Beautiful. Empowerment.
So if I do it right, okay. If I don't do it right, it's my problem. I don't have to blame anyone for that. And it's quite interesting because this was a dialogue that I had with my mother when I was 20 years old. And she told me very seriously, you know, I think I can't live with you anymore. And I said, why, mother? Because you are too independent.
You were empowered very early.
And I gave that answer to her. I said, okay, mama, but yes, I am. That's my choice. Because if I do it right, okay for me. If I don't do it right, I don't have anyone to blame. But since we're talking about some so personal things, I have one thing to say to you also. And she looked at me like that. And I said, you know, Mom, I like you very much. And I don't like you because you are my mom. I like you very much because you are the woman you are.
Wow.
That moment, we got together. There was a moment of very, very strong communication that I respect you and you respect me. I love you and you love me. So I gave a lot of, I talk too much, as usual, you have to cut me. But the most important thing that I have to say to finish this answer, it's really important when you have the support in the head of my mother and my father. My mother was a very serious person, a person of the very hard on compromise and so on. And my father was a happy guy. So I had the two things. So I can manage the two words in a very, very easy way. So after that, I'm sure that we're going to talk about to being an economist and so on and so forth.
Yes, but I want to stop you there right now just to highlight 3 lessons that I can't miss now, because this is very important for our audience to also reflect upon the lessons. And I'm hearing 3 here, very important ones. First is empowerment. So when you mention your sister, when you mention the relationship you had with her, you were empowered to think for yourself and to be yourself. This is very important in anybody's leadership. So leaders empower and leaders are empowered. So empowerment is very important. The other one is respect. Respect people for what they are and have the responsibility to be who you are. So that is also very important, right? And as the third is related to the second, which is acknowledge things and acknowledge people as they are. We don't have to change people to be able to work with people. They are what they are, and we find a way to relate to each other. And that's beautiful how you described you talking to your mom about that, because I'm sure, and I know you, so I know this happened. This shaped you. This shaped you for life.
Yes.
And allowed you to be who you are. So yes, the next chapter, economist. How did this happen?
It's another thing. Everything happens in my life. I don't expect anything. That's one lesson more. I don't have expectations because things in my life did happen as a surprise, as a moment, as a changing along the way. So when I decided to go to college, my decision was to go to business school. So we have here those examinations, are a large one, everyone have to make the test. And it was the first year that we had a change in the university, where we have 4 semesters of what we call a basic course. And the option should be done for the 5th semester on. And I decided to be an economist there. So I began looking forward to business school, end up as an economist. Then I had a boyfriend in my class, and he decided that he is a person with much more looking in the future. And he had decided when he was, 15 years old, that he would be an economist and he would go to Harvard to a PhD. He did it. But in the process of doing it, I went together. So he decided that, okay, we finished college. Now we're going to a master degree at the Fundação Getúlio Vargas, with a good school in Brazil. I went. And then he said, no, now we're going to a PhD program. I said, okay, I'll go. And then we made our application. Both of us did an application through Harvard. And Harvard did, at that time, I don't know if it's still like that, they don't accept the 2 students from the same school foreigners. Okay?
I didn't know that.
yes, my application was given to, sent to Boston College by the people of Harvard. I didn't make a direct application. So we went to live in Cambridge. It was a very, very good experience. I spent there my master's degree. I had a master's degree. And I didn't finish my PhD. I have all the exams done, but I didn't enroll to the thesis because when I went back to Brazil, I had an invitation to come to Brasilia to work in the same institution, which is EPEA, has a group in Rio, research center in Rio, and the planning center and human resources center in Brasilia. So they invited me. Then I stopped and thought, okay, I can say no and have 1 or 2 years to finish my thesis, my PhD. Or I can go and I will not have time to write thesis. And I asked myself, why do I need a PhD except the star, all but dissertation? Well, I said, I have a job, but I'm very happy on that. I had I said, okay, but the PhD degree is important if you are going to an academic life. I had spent 2 years in Federal University of Economics in Rio, and I said, no, that's not what I want. So I said, you know what? I will go to Brasilia. And up to today, it's a decision that I made of 30 years of career in the public sector with some experience in the private sector. And that was actually what I like, I love, I'm passionate to do. So here you have an economist.
So the decisions that happen to us in our lives, they might not be so clear when we're making them, but looking in retrospective, this was the changing moment. I mean, when you realize you didn't need the diploma, the degree itself, you already had learned what you needed to learn, and you took the job in Brasilia and you accepted this invitation, you started your your career in the public sector, right?
Yeah, but I have to say that things are connected, because when I was studying in Boston College, I had the 2 areas that I was specializing: economics, labor economics, and industrial economics.
Right. So the knowledge was there. You studied it.
It was there. All the occupations I had something to do with one of the 2 or both of the 2.
Yeah.
So it showed me which are the areas I love the most. But I have to add something else. When you are in the public sector and going from one area to another, in labor, in Minister of Economy, in finance, in exporter, and so on and so forth, you need to become what I used to say, I am a specialist in generalities. You have to know a little bit of everything, because when you are working with a public policy, it's required for you to understand a little bit of everything. So how do you do with that? At least I did, how to deal with that. Having colleagues, persons in the team that knows deeper each one of the things I know superficially. So I can, I could have discussions. I could understand what people were saying. I could just have some opinions. It can be a very terrible problem. I didn't ask foolish questions because I had informations about almost everything. When I didn't know, I had a team that I could ask them, okay, could you explain that to me?
That's a good point. Let me stop here because some of our audience are students, and sometimes they're so concerned. Oh, what should I study? Where should I go? And I usually tell them, and I think that's what you're saying here with your trajectory is, it doesn't really matter what, but it's important that you have a foundation, that you choose something and you get good at it, because the foundation will allow you to have the opportunity to go to a place and work, and then you can open up and get multiple knowledge from different places and surround yourself with people who even know more than you do and know deeply, so that you can, as a collective, be in the decision-making process together, right? So that's what you're telling me. You went to school, you did economics, you loved the labor part of it, you studied hard, you were invited because of that. And once you started there, you grew as a generalist and had people who were experts working with you in the group.
I would add one thing to the students. It's important to get into any one option, because only when you are there, you can have a better idea about what you like and what you don't like. It's no problem to start a law school and they say, no, I don't like that, I want biology. Oh, perfect. I know, I don't like biology either. I go to computer science. So that's the way we learn. That's the way, the imagination, trying to know at 17, 18 years old, what do you want is a challenge. So go there. If you don't like, change it. And you'll find.
And it's okay to change, right? It's okay.
It's okay to change. And that sometime you know, aha, that's what I like.
Yes. Like you just explained, I mean, you tried the academics, the life of an academic. You didn't like it. And you were invited to go to the government and you loved it and you stayed and you became minister. So tell us about it. How was this trajectory to become the first woman minister twice?
Now, let me tell you that my first experience, IPEA is an institution that is part of Ministry of Planning. So it's a public sector institution.
Just one comment here for those who don't know Brazil. This is a Brazilian government think tank, right? So the highest level of think tank within the Brazilian government, the federal government, and that gives the subsidies for all the economic policies and whatnot to be defined, right?
It's Applied Economics Research Institution. IPEA means that.
Okay.
So my first experience was that I don't know how many people know about the tragedy that we had in Brazil with the election of Tancredo Neves. We were leaving the military government and the first civil president, and there was a group working on this his government program, and I worked with them. And I was responsible to write a document with two friends about poverty and employment. And we did. And then Tancredo died. That was the tragedy. But he left the Minister of Labor, was a person, very interesting person, Pazianotto, which at that moment was the Secretary of Labor in the state of São Paulo, the biggest state we have in Brazil. So another friend said, okay, Minister Pazianotto wants to talk to you. About what? That was my reaction. About what? He's a lawyer. All his team are people in the same area. He wants to talk about it with an economist. And I said, okay, that's it. That's it. I went to São Paulo, sit in his office, started talking. And my feeling was he was not paying attention. Okay. So in a moment, the phone, someone called him, he talked on the phone, then he came back and said, I have an invitation to you. I want you to be the Secretary of Employment and Wages. And I said, what? I was not prepared for that. He wanted to talk about economics. So I said, okay, how long do I have to give you an answer? He said 72 hours. I came back to Brasilia, pick up a good friend of mine that we were together at Briyah. And when it was exactly 70 hours, I called him by phone. Minister Pazianotto, yes. Dorothea here, okay? Okay. Do you want the answer? Yes. Okay, I got it. I will do it. And he said, thank you. And he hung on the telephone. And I said, what happened here? Is this the yes? Am I a Secretary of Employment Wages? What is that? So that's why I started being a Secretary of Employment Wage, and after that I was Minister of Labor.
Yes, there's always a nice story, and that is beautiful because there is a comment that you made that is usually more evident in women than men. Women usually doubt that we are ready when we receive an invitation like this. So a big guy like Pazianotto saw that you were ready, and you were doubting yourself. I'm not ready. But
no, I didn't. I'm crazy enough to say, yes, okay, do it. But what I didn't understand was the way we talk by the phone.
Yes.
He said, okay, thank you. But it was not clear. He didn't say, okay, we should have a meeting. We should say what we are going to do. No.
He just put you in the fire, right? Just
go ahead. Right? Wow.
No, but this is how things happen to most people. And again, I think your trajectory prepared you for that because, as you said, you're crazy. But it's not that. You go for it. One thing that I always see you telling us, especially women in the talks you do, is ask yourselves not why I should do this, but why not, right?
Yes.
And this is a liberating force. And I am sure you use this in this situation too. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, why not go for it, right?
Why not? Let me add something else. What I think that's very present in all the situations I went through in my past. I was very lucky because when I was a child, I think I was 7 years old, 8 years old. I was going to home alone after a piano class, and it came through my mind before. I don't know what the people feel guilt about anything, because when I did it, I think my feeling was that was the right thing to do. If now I know that's not, that I shouldn't do that, it means that in the future, I won't do that. I learned a lesson. So I gave up of being the feeling of guilty. How do I say in English, arrepender, regret.
Yes.
Now, I don't regret. If I did it, because at that moment, I think I should do it. So that's liberating. And the second thing that I learned is behind that reaction I was telling you, is that I'm not afraid of anything. That's why I say, why not? It can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, it can be right, it can be wrong. If it was wrong, if I did something that I shouldn't have done, I'll try to fix it. 99% of the time you can fix it. And if you cannot fix it, you ask, I apologize. And if the problem was so big that you could not be burdened,
forgiven,
then you go to other place. You resign. But so I'm not afraid of anything. It's exaggerate, okay? But I think it's a way of accentuate what for me is very important when I take decision. Don't imagine bad things. Don't be afraid of, and you have a list of questions. Go and do it. If you are there in a very short period, you say, okay, I shouldn't have done that. Go away, resign, look for a different thing to do. But I think that every time we are afraid of something, you are paralyzed. It is the worst thing in life. Just do it. Why not?
Beautiful. This is a lesson I want to highlight here with all the words. Take risks. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, acknowledge it, try to fix it. And if there's no way to fix it, resign, go do something else. Let someone else step in and do the job. But don't paralyze because of fear. I love it. Beautiful. And you for sure didn't paralyze because of fear, and you did a lot of things that were right, and a lot of things that were wrong, right, in your trajectory. Yeah. Not everything was perfect.
Yeah. And just to go through the ministry, I worked with Doughnut for 3 years. It was I can tell you exactly how much I learned working with him. Negotiations. It was the openness of the economy, of the final moments of the dictatorship, and the unions were rejected all the time. They did everything bad to finish with the unions, and the relationship between employers and workers were very, very bad. So the tension was very big. And I was the mediator in many of them. At the beginning with Doughnut, and with a very short period of time, he just said, Dorothea, you take care of this. Okay, I'll do that. Well, I learned a lot. So it was a very good experience. But then there was a discussion with the Minister of Planning and Minister of Finance, and they did something we didn't want they to do. So the minister asked me, so what are we going to do now? They did it. And I said, Minister, I don't know what you are going to do. What I am going to do, I am to resign now. I'm not here tomorrow. So I resigned. And then I went back to IPEA. And then I was... I almost went to live in Moscow. That's another crazy thing. The Minister of Education is a very, very famous Brazilian scientist, Mr. Goldenberg. And he went to a 30 scientists meeting in the year, I don't know, remember what was the year. And they decided that they didn't want to do something. And they decided to create the International Foundation for the Survival of Humanity. And Goldenberg got an argument with them and said, no, it's not survival only. It's survival and development of humanity. And they said, okay. So when they started to building up this institution, which was in Moscow, Stockholm, and I think he worked in the USA. And they said to him, okay, the idea of development was yours. So you are in charge of find someone to build up this institution. So this question of a world is with me a long time. So he asked me to do that. And I said, okay, I'll do that. Started learning Russian. It was a crazy moment. And then I went to talk to the Minister of Planning, saying to her, okay, I'm here to tell you that I'm going to live in Russia. I'm living in Brazil, and I don't know how can you imagine that, okay? And he said, oh, Dorothea, this is a problem. I said, why? Because I'm just doing here creation of the Secretary of Planning of the Minister of Planning. And he said, you were my name to be the chief of the secretary. And I said, planning in Brazil, this is a challenge bigger than to have an institution for survival and development in humanity in Russia. So I want to go there. I'll stay here.
You chose the bigger challenge. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then I stayed there. And there was a moment when we tried to make in Brazil a social national, like Moncloa, pact,
agreement.
And I was the person representing the Minister for Planning. And I, as usual, as you all are saying, I talk a lot. So I started to give a lot of interviews, explain what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And then I received a call. A good friend of mine, at that moment was a minister in the presidential cabinet. And he said, what are you doing? Just I'm having my lunch. And he said, can you come here at the palace? And I asked, for what? He said, laughing, you see, I got there, immediately he picked me up to the cabinet of the president, the President Sarney, and he invited me to be Minister of Labor. And I asked him, why? Why me? I saw you giving an interview and I liked you too much. So that's how I became a Minister of Labor. It was a very interesting story of this experience. Then after that, I was Secretary of National Economy, which was quite interesting too. The experience of negotiations with the 35 sectors of the economy trying to build up competitiveness. And then when I was President Fernando Henrique Cardoso, he invited me to be Minister of Industry, Trade and Tourism. After that, I was head of the Agency for Export Promotion. And after that, I had my experience in being Secretary of Development in the state level, which was also a very important experience because I had only experience in the federal government. That's it.
So many positions in the government, many big chairs. You were the first, not the first woman minister, but the first woman who was minister twice in two different administrations.
Yes.
And then you accepted other invitations to go work for the private sector, came back to the public sector, and your name is very well known, so people know you. But there is something about also knowing that the position you occupy doesn't necessarily stick with you. You are bigger than the chair. And you have had this ability to navigate different positions and leave and come back, and you are fine with yourself. You're not bogged down by that. So what is this leadership lesson here that I am hearing?
Yes, I learned that living in Brasilia and seeing a lot of good friends that went to positions, high positions. And when it finished, you have to go to the psychologist. They didn't sustain their health. Why? The lesson I learned is that when you are in a position of public, and that's true also for the president of a company, or a CEO, and all the I don't know if I can say in English, reverence to the position you are is not for you as a person, as I would say, a physical person. It's for the position. So if you are a minister, the journalist will call you to have your opinion. People will say you are wonderful, you are spectacular. It's not because of you. It's because the position the office you took. So when you leave that, you leave that. That's best. Or I used to say, you have to change the chapter of the book. And most times you have to change the book. This is something that happened in one moment, but it is in the past. Don't miss the reverence, I don't know, the things that people love when they are personalities, comedians, and just live your life. So it's quite interesting because when I left the Minister of Labor, I went back to IPEA, and I felt myself as very lucky. Why? Because they said to me, you have a room here, a very small room, very small office. And he said, but you can do whatever you want. I was in a paradise. But people came to me and said, how come you are a minister and now is not small office? Aren't you feeling bad? I was, no, I'm loving it. So in that moment, I had the opportunity to know, to read, to learn about total quality management. That was very, very important in all the things I did after that, including now why I am a member of the Brazilian Academy of Quality. It started that in the small office.
Okay, so let me stop you right there. Two lessons here that I see. One is related to not getting attached to the position, because that will go away. And very importantly, close the chapter and start a new chapter, or even start a new book, because there's still more to come, right?
Yes.
And don't be ashamed. This is the ego talking, right? You're a minister, you can't accept another role. I mean, it's another role, it's another book you're writing, you're starting, right? That's exactly how I felt when I left GE. And then people said, oh, what is she doing now? Oh, no, she's an entrepreneur. She's starting a company by herself. It's a small thing. She's doing everything because she doesn't have the whole team doing everything for her. Yeah. But I love it. I love the possibility to create the new. And I think that's how you felt when you were there in your office learning about quality. It was starting a new chapter of your life, it seems like, right? Yes. And that's the second lesson. It is, you as a leader you're always learning. It's a lifelong process of learning. And so tell me more. So you learned about quality, and that inspired what? What could you have been more than being a minister that you're so passionate about, still keeping your motivation and your energy going? Yeah,
it was quite interesting when I was invited to go to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Tourism. No, it was not that moment. When I was invited to be the secretary, the National Secretary of Economy. And it was the minister, Marcílio Max Moreira, the call of government. And Pedro Malan, who is a very good friend of mine, was Minister of Finance at that moment. He said, okay, the minister asked me to ask you if you would accept to be the Secretary of National Economy, and with the two challenges. The first one was to get out of the frozen economy. Do you remember that? All prices frozen. They asked me to do this, a very small thing.
Yeah, easy.
And the second, he said, and the second one, he wants you to be a leader in this, that thing that you are talking too much about, quality management. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And then I began as the National Secretary of Economy. And it was quite interesting because I managed to put the two things, the two challenges in the same package. What we did in the secretary, it was first, we started to finish the control of price in the Brazilian economy. It sounds like crazy thing because can you imagine a guy thought that could, for example, froze the price of shirts. How can you do that? So first one, we washed up, liberate price for all sectors that by logic could not be frozen. Good price could not be fixed. Then we looked at all the sectors that could be in a very short period of time, just talk with them, be careful, liberate the price. Then we went to the third level, which was sectors which were quite complicated. For example, the siderúrgica,
metals, mining,
metals, and so on, chemical sector, petrochemical sector, all those bigger intermediate producers sectors, and we did it as a system of controlled, fiscalized price. We have meetings every month to see what was going on. And the fourth level was only one segment that was with a controlled price, which was pharmaceuticals, black target, or say that the most controlled pharmaceutical products. We did that, Adriana, from May to November, 6 months.
Wow.
And what we did then, each segment, each sector that had its price liberated, immediately was invited, almost forced to go to the sectorial cameras, sectorial groups, where the goal was competitiveness. And it was forbidden to talk about price. So in those discussions, we end up with 3 different things. What the government has to do, because traditionally the private sector just to say the government has to do everything and only the government. So I said something we can do. So the list of things that the government have to do. Second, the list of the things that the companies have to do, especially total quality management, going to export, going to innovation, new technologies. So this was the agenda of each sector. And the third, what the workers had to do. We involved in almost all of the discussions. There was a participation of the workers. So I give you why this question of quality was so important in this moment. So what happened in Brazil in these 2-3 years was astonishing in terms of the velocity of the company, the transformation, including things, since you have an international program. I have to say that I was very happy with that. Most of the international companies that were in Brazil, the Brazilian subsidiary was the first one to do the change in the faster way and become a benchmark for the world, the company around the world. It happened with American companies, French companies, Italian companies, and so on and so forth. And I was very proud of it. Because what? Because there is a characteristic of a Brazilian society or people, or that sometimes it's look like a criticism that says the Brazilians don't have a memory. And I say to you, yes, we don't look to the past. We 100% look to the future. And so it's very easy, it's easier to make change. Because if you have something new to do, and you are convinced that it's a good idea and you can do it, we do it. We don't look, I used to say it very, very friendly to my French friends. I don't look the revolution, okay? We don't are attached to the past.
Yeah, we learn from the past, but we don't have to be attached to it. We can innovate. So this is another lesson here that I'm hearing. How can you open up for what is yet to come? So a leader has to have that ability to know when to say, okay, let's not get attached here, and let's look for opportunities in the future. And another lesson is when it's very complex, you need to include the different groups, the different stakeholders in the decision making. And everybody has roles and responsibilities. Like you said, the government, it's easy to just put the blame on the government, but the government has a role. So let's see, what is the role of the government? What is the role of the private sector? What is the role of the work? And have everybody sit around the table, have conversations, and find a plan, a way out. And then, as you said, and again, this is also another leadership lesson here, your trajectory, Dorothea, allowed you to have the eyes to see things that needed to be done, and you had the power, because you're sitting on the chair, to apply them. So every leader has his or her own unique trajectory that allows him or her, and only him or her, to see things that others cannot. So every one of us has the opportunity to offer a unique solution to something. If we can tap into the talents. And you definitely did that as you sat in that chair and conducted the process, right, with all the stakeholders.
Yeah. And let me make a mention, because the word power, you have the power, is sometimes is very badly understood. A power is not to be like a king or an emperor. For me, my lesson in life was that the meaning of power is power to do. It's power to do something. It's power to do the best you can do. So you have to use the time. When you are in government, it's not like in a company that you stayed there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You have a very short time to do things. So you have to use your power to do things a very short period of time.
It's short in the private sector too. People don't stay so long anymore. They used to, they don't anymore. But connecting this power lesson with what you said before, it's not attached to the position. You know you're going to be there temporarily. So while you were there, use the power you have to make the best possible outcome for whoever is your audience, all your stakeholders. We're talking about ESG these days a lot. So it's delivering value to all the different stakeholders. Your example is clearly a way to do that. I mean, you are including everybody, you're giving them roles and responsibilities, you're making sure everybody's needs are met. And because of your trajectory, you are the leader that can see things and put this in practice, use your power while you're there, and you don't get attached to the position next time around.
And you have the power, don't be afraid of using it.
Yes, I'm connecting to the other lesson of risks.
Do something always, and make an evaluation. Is this good? Do it again. Do it bigger. It's not good? Okay, I tried. So it's a lot of the mindset of the digital world we have today.
Or the entrepreneurial mindset, right? You try, you see if it works. If it doesn't work, you don't do that anymore. Learn from it and do something else, right?
Yes, the same.
Beautiful. So we are now talking about future connections, digital, you said digital, but there is something that I know you are into now that I would love for you to share with the audience that has to do with at Briyah we say regeneration. What do we mean by that?
Yes.
We believe that innovation is necessary. You talked about that, but we also can regenerate what's not working. So we can use this power of innovation to do better, like you said, but to regenerate what's not working. And you have a beautiful regeneration story in your life. So after retirement, you ran into a book that I would say not changed your life, but is giving you new flavor for the next chapter. Can you share with our audience what is this regeneration story of Dorothea Werneck?
It was wonderful because at March 12th, I know exactly the date, 2020, I start my moment of isolation. Okay, as you said, I was not working anymore. I live in an apartment. It's not a house that I can go to the garden and take sun. I have one son that lives in USA. I have not family around me. And I was by myself. And I said, so what do I have to learn in this process? What is going on here? And my first reaction was my economist side. And I said, what is going to happen in the world, in Brazil? Because it's not going to be like it was before. A lot of things have happened too fast, too fast. It's a global phenomenon. All the crises we have here was because the openness of the economy, because of this and that, the inflation, and so on, they were internal things. But now it was a global problem. Everything stopped. I remember that at the beginning, including there was very, very interesting videos of animals going around the cities because everyone was at home. And this good friend of mine, that I don't know if you know it, that is called Adriana, said to me, I have a book that you may be interested in. When I look at that, it was an eureka moment. Why? Because it came up with the idea that you have to look at everything at the same time. You have to put every challenge in the same package. So if it was clear that the problem was related to the planet, and it was, because an animal has not a place in the forest, and then it goes to the city, and then it goes to the, I don't know, and a pandemic comes. It was not the first time. This is the worst one, but it was not the first time. At the same time, people, they lost their jobs. They're living in poor sites, and I said that they are my heroes. How can you survive without any possibility? In Brazil, we have the COVID voucher, that helped. It was a very small value, but even though something were done. So what this book about the donuts came with the salvation of my mind was that I could learn about a new paradigm where it's very logical. The book is very well written, very good the way she wrote the book is very, very flair, very, I like it. And it helped me a lot. So I started with this thing of new economy, and I do have to confess to you, I didn't have take the ecological side of problems so strongly as I am now in the past. It didn't occupy the priorities, if I may say so. So I can now think of the world like that, But I have to say to you, after the book of Katie Raworth, I started reading in many things. There is a reference, I'm reading. And I went back to look for books on digital economy, biotechnology. I don't know if you know the book of Walter Isaacson, about Jennifer Doudna, the codifier. She was the Nobel Prize last year in chemistry. And trying to understand what is going on the biotechnology world, which is going to be faster than what happened in the digital world. So we are changing faster and faster and faster. That's another book very interesting that we are talking about. The faster and faster is the future, which demands a new kind of leadership, which I think is very important. How do you survive in instability? How do you plan strategically when you don't know what's going to happen?
Okay, so let me stop you right there, just because you're talking about the future, and this is important, yes, the future of leadership and the traits. But I want just to reinforce something that you told me earlier about the donut. You, as an economist, had the same pains that Kate described in her book, and you realized that it is not about growth, it is about thriving. And as you said now, it's important to look at everything together. So very systemic approach. So let's just go back a little bit here, and then we can connect to the traits that you are saying that are the characteristics of the leaders that we need now to take us into the future. So please go back to Kate a little bit. And
I have identified a lot with the first, it's not this chapter, it's the introduction, when she was a student at Oxford and said every class she made questions that no one had the answer to it. And I did the same. I remember that we started this conversation. I decided to go to business administration, and then I went to economy. But I had all the time the head of business in my way of thinking. And what was quite interesting is that she criticized a very important pillar of the traditional economics, which is growth. And it was the bridge between the changes she is designing for us, and was exactly that. What is happening with growth? Is an infinite process? Can the world grow infinitely? Or there is a moment that it has to stop? And the moment that it has to stop is now, for a very simple reason. If we start a consumption, if the growth is permanent, continuous, not permanent, continuous, and as a consequence, consumption is also growing, the planet does not have resources, including water and air, to support this rate of growth. So this is not possible anymore. So what is the alternative? Where can we go to or through? And then she comes with this idea of thriving. How you can have a prosper economy. And taking care of two things. Look, ESG goes with that, which is make always the question, the decisions I am taking, the production, the products and service I am producing, do they affect the planet? Do they have impact in the quality of the life in the planet? If the answer is yes, please don't do it. Don't do it. At the same time, you have to make the second question. The things I am doing in my business, how is it affecting the quality of life of humanity? Is it good for people? If it is, go ahead. If it is not, please don't do it. Or, in this case, please do something that can make better the life of the population. And it's not only in your company, because some companies that, no, I treat my workers, my collaborators very well. No, please. Is your company, is your community, is your supplier in their community, is the country, is the world.
All connected.
All connected. So I think we are going a very good way now.
Yeah, and it's all, like you said, there is an alternative. She's showing us that this more holistic, circular, connected way is possible. Some cities are already applying it. Some companies are already using this concept. There are different names. The names really don't matter, but it's the way to connect, to integrate, and to be mindful of the kind of impact. If it's a positive impact, okay. If it's a negative impact, stop, look at it, measure, do different, and use creativity to find a way to do better. And that ties in with the next. So you're looking into this revolution that's happening in biotech. You're reading more and more. This level of consciousness in leadership is rising, right? So leaders are more aware of all the different things they have to do. So what is your vision for this future? What is this leadership of the future that is shaping now, that you're reading in your books, or that you are, getting motivated about?
It's quite interesting because, first of all, I love to put things very clear. The first question a person has to make is, do I want to be a leader? Do I like to be a leader? This sister of mine, she used to say to me, I don't like to be a leader. I like to be the second. I like to help leaders. But I thought, just saying, because I was in that process of going from one side to another. And she said, no, that's not my option. My son is the second example of options in life. He is an academic. He loves research. So he's working at Amazon and he has a group. He's a leader of a group, but it's not part of his mind to be a big leader in the company or a big leader in the government. So the first question is this: do you want it? Do you like it? Because many people don't like it and don't want it. And they are very important in the process of doing things anywhere. So you have to have people like that, that are thinking, are researchers, are scientists, and are not that leader that we find pushing for this big transformation in the world. They are making their contribution, make change in the very specific thing, which is very important. So they do have my respect. Then go to the people that think about this future, how to build up it. The second question, you like it, okay. Are you an idealist? Do you dream about things? Do you have designs in your head about how could be a different a better, more respectful world. If you do have that dream, then the second condition is satisfied. The third, then I will go to a thing more strategic. Everything I'm learning, everything I'm reading, always begin with a very important thing, that if you want to be a leader in your company, in your team, in a nation, in the world, in the national multilateral institution, you have to learn yourself. You have to learn how you are, how you behave, how you manage situations, complex situations. If you don't know you, and if you cannot manage your reactions, how do you think you can manage the situation which is more complicated and involve more people? Do you have patience with do you accept your mistakes? Because if you don't accept your mistakes, how are you going to accept the mistake of others? So the first step is be a leader of yourself. Second, be a leader of a team, which can be in the company, which can be in a philanthropic institution, which can be anywhere.
In the family, in a group of friends.
In the family. Then you can develop this, which is working with others, to associate with people, to belong to a team. The third step is collaboration. What can you do? Because many times when you are at the third level, you have to work with your group, your company, but it gets to a point that if you really want to make change, you have to work with different organizations, even if they are your competitor.
Beyond your bubble.
Beyond your bubble. And this you have to collaborate. Then you learn that, you do that, you go ahead. Then if you have the opportunity, why not collaborate inter-countries?
Why not? I love it.
I'll finish with one small thing. As I said before, I don't, it's impossible to go back the new, the world that will be the post-COVID. Please don't come back with that. That's garbage, okay? So I listened to a presentation and I loved the term, the new future. And to have a new future, you have to design, or at least to help to design this new future. It's a new future of you, yourself, can need to design what is your new future for your company, for your business, for your city, for your country, and so on and so forth. So we must not be spectators looking at what they are doing. You have to write the story and to design your own future. That's it. Okay. Is it idealist? Yes, I am. I know. But I used to say that I'm idealist, almost utopic. Almost, because it's not ever, many times it's not an utopic. We can make a change. It will take time. It will take time. Be resilient. Be patient. Look for the future. Have a strategic thinking. You have to think strategically. That's where I want to go. Or I think now, because in 3 months, maybe I need to think it over. Things change very fast. I believe.
This is beautiful. Okay, let me just summarize this last lesson here before we say the final words. I hear you saying leadership happens in many dimensions, but it starts with you leading yourself, knowing yourself, connecting to who you are. And you didn't use this word, but when you were speaking, I was listening. Values. Values matter.
Principles.
What are your values? Know
Values
your
and
values.
principles.
Right? Your principles, to be able to know yourself and be able to then be a leader. And you don't have to be the leader that has the position and is very popular. You can be leaders in many facets of your life, and it's dynamic. You don't have to just stick to one thing only. You play different roles. So that is what I hear. And the other one is be open to the new and create the new narratives. Design. You have the power. Dorothea, what you're telling me is that you lived this power throughout your life, your career. So thank you for being a role model, which is another very big leadership lesson. It is to be a role model. You have led by example. And I am honored to have seen this happen throughout your life and affected me in my life. You are an inspiration to me, and you have been. And wow. I am very happy to say that. And you are giving us the liberty here in your talk to really take risks, to design the new. Why not, right? Let's use Dorothea's example here to challenge the status quo. And let's say, why not? Why can't we regenerate? Why can't we create new narratives that are better suited for the moment we're in? And everybody can be a leader. That's exactly what we say at Briyah Institute. Embrace your unique leadership journey. You don't have to be a minister to do that. You don't have to be the CEO to do that. You can do that wherever you are. And there are many lessons here. So watch this again, you guys, because there are many, many lessons here. Dorothea, I love it. Thank you so much for this. And please, final words to our audience before we go.
The final word, be happy. Be happy. Life is good. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in the persons. We have to believe in the world. And if you're not so confident about it, stop by a moment. Everything has a beginning, the middle, and the end.
Cycles.
Problems, including pandemics, including COVID, including the virus. So just keep going. I think that when we believe in life, yes, the ASPRO, that's perfect. And when we believe in life, when we believe in ourselves, when we find the fun about doing things that we love, it's easier and make it possible. So do it.
When you find the passion in what to love, what you're good at, what the world needs, right? And then what it all happens. It's the ikigai. Yes. I love it.
And thank you very, very much. You are a very good friend. And I'm sorry if I talk too much.
You're perfect. Thank you so much for talking to us today, for sharing your beautiful story. And our audience, I am sure, will watch this many, many times and come back for more at the Briyah Institute. So thank you very much, Dorothea.
Thank you, Adriana. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, people.